For today's cup of coffee, we're going to put a disclaimer at the beginning of this.
If you are stupid and easily offended, get the fuck off this video.
Well, I mean, it very well may be offensive, but my God, what is not offensive to some these days?
Maybe Dad shouldn't be watching this video.
Well, I don't know.
Sorry, Dad, for this topic.
I'm not sorry for the topic. I mean, it's a matter of exploring different things, and it is a matter of a quest for truth. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you don't like the truth. Sometimes it varies greatly from what your belief is.
Yeah.
And so doing this series this month has taught me a lot, but I was also open to being taught. Yeah. You know, when you've got these people that have more knowledge than you do, and it's like, yes, I sit there and I wonder how did they come by their knowledge, which again was the conclusion that nobody knows anything about anything.
Yeah.
Nobody knows shit. So just be aware that we are going to explore realms as far as different belief systems.
Yeah.
Some of which goes against today's norms in belief systems.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping Kid is not going to be thrown by his chair again.
Not yet.
And I will tell you that planetary alignments right now, interesting, most interesting.
It's fucked.
We've got Mars coming out. We've got Mercury coming out. Still got Saturn and stuff in there. We've got Aquarius mixed in there.
Joy.
Well, it's that age of Aquarius stuff, that was bullshit. Back in the 60s, they had no idea what they were talking about.
No.
Anyhow, what we're going to be discussing now are some of the myths about Halloween.
Okay.
We're going to also go back into the origins of Halloween. People can go back with the references that I have on other videos right now because there's a tremendous amount of information. Always seek truth for yourself. Because this is what I have found in my journeys. You may find something totally different. And if you do, please feel free to share that with us.
Yeah.
You know?
That the Christians are trying to change Halloween to Jesus-ween. Instead of Holy-ween. See, that would have sounded a little better. But well, Jesus-ween?
Let's go to the origins of Halloween. Not Samhain. We're going to go into that. Samhain. We'll go into that. But Halloween itself, the word Halloween or Halloween, dates to about 1754 of its Christian origin. And the word Halloween means Saints' Eve. It comes from a Scottish term for All Hallows' Eve, which is the evening before All Hallows' Day. In the Scots, the word Eve is even, and this is contracted to een or een. We could say that's,
Yeah.
Over time, All Hallows Even evolved into Halloween.
This is Halloween.
And in Old English, All Hallows Eve itself is not seen until 1556. Now, let us go back. And the Malleus Maleficarum was written in 1486 with the most severe, what do you want to call it?
I don't know.
Horrors, atrocities, fulfilled to the law, according to this writing, happened between 1560 and 1630.
Love that.
And it says one theory holds that many Halloween traditions were influenced by Celtic harvest festivals, particularly the Gaelic festival Samhain, which are believed to have pagan roots. Now, what did pagan mean? Heath. So it meant, a geographic thing where these people lived.
Yeah.
And some go further and suggest that Samhain may have been Christianized as All Hallows Eve. along with its eve by the early church. Other academics believe Halloween began solely as a Christian holiday, being the vigil of All Hallows Day. Celebrated in Ireland and Scotland in the 19th century, Irish and Scottish migrants brought many Halloween customs to North America, and then through American influence, Halloween spread to many other countries by the 21st century. Beginning in the 4th century, the Feast of All Hallows in the Western Christian Church commemorated Christian martyrs, and in the 8th century.
Mm-hmm.
Some of this, I don't know. I've highlighted some of it. I should have gone through there. Sentence structure.
Yeah.
By the end of the 12th century, they had become holy days of obligation in Western Christianity. That meant they had to be observed, and involved such traditions as ringing church bells for souls in purgatory.
So, why did they have to be observed?
Because it was church tradition. It was like, you must observe this day.
Okay.
It was also customary for criers dressed in black to parade the streets, ringing a bell of mournful sound and calling on all good Christians to remember the poor souls.
Bring out your dead!
Yeah, really. The All Hallowtide custom of baking and sharing soul cakes for all christened souls has been suggested as the origin of trick-or-treating. Now, there are some deviations between other things that I have researched and found and some of these other ones, because hell, nobody has a consensus on this shit either.
Apparently.
Anyhow, groups of poor people, often children, would go door to door during All Hallowtide collecting soul cakes in exchange for praying for the dead, especially the souls of the giver's friends and relatives. This was called souling. Soul cakes were also offered for the souls themselves to eat, or the soulers would act as their representatives. As with the Lenten tradition of hot cross buns, soul cakes were often marked with a cross, indicating that they were baked as alms, which are offerings.
Okay.
You know, alms for the blind.
Yeah.
While souling, Christians would carry lanterns made of hollowed-out turnips, which could have originally represented souls of the dead. Jack-o'-lanterns were used to ward off evil spirits. Households in Ireland, England, and Austria had candles burning in every room to guide the souls back to visit their earthly homes.
Yeah.
These were known as soul lights. Now, personally, I don't think that's a good thing. Let them go where they're supposed to go. Not back home. They're supposed to go in the original light.
Right. They're supposed to go up to heaven.
Yeah. And there was a Christian minister who linked the wearing of costumes to the belief in vengeful ghosts. He said it was traditionally believed that the souls of the departed wandered the earth until All Saints' Day, and All Hallows' Eve provided one last chance for the dead to gain vengeance on their enemies before moving to the next world.
Wow, we love that.
Okay, now this is a Christian minister, so what happened to that vengeance is God's?
Right.
Some of these people didn't read the book.
Some of these people read the book, but they twisted it to their own narrative.
Well, that's true too. Now, in order to avoid being recognized by any soul that might be seeking such vengeance, people would don masks or costumes. So does that mean that the ones that they knew they had offended somebody or done something shitty to somebody were trying to hide?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, you got to wonder that. Okay, it is claimed that in the Middle Ages, churches that were too poor to display relics of martyred saints at All Hallowtide let parishioners dress up as saints instead. So it's like they used the living bones instead of the dead bones.
Yep.
Which I always thought was interesting.
Which is...
Some Christians, don't go there totally yet. Save that for another video. Some Christians observe this custom at Halloween today. And Leslie Bannatyne believes this could have been a Christianization of an earlier pagan custom. Many Christians in mainland Europe, especially in France, believe that once a year on Halloween, the dead of the churchyards rose for one wild, hideous carnival known as the Dance Macabre, which was often depicted in church decoration. And then Christopher Almond and Rosamond McKitterick write in the New Cambridge Medieval History that the Dance Macabre urged Christians not to forget the end of all earthly things. The dance macabre was sometimes enacted at village pageants and court festivities with people dressed up as corpses from various strata of society. And this may be the origin of Halloween costume parties, which that sounds like fun.
It does sound like fun.
Yeah.
But
so then in Britain, these customs came under attack during the Reformation of which started in 1517, as Protestants berated purgatory as a popish doctrine incompatible with the Calvinist doctrine of predestination. And in predestination, it's basically there are those that are born damned.
yeah,
Which that's perverse.
that very much is. No, people need
State sanctions.
equal rights.
State-sanctioned ceremonies associated with prayers for the dead and intercession of saints were abolished during the Elizabethan Reform. In England, the ending of official ceremonies related to the intercession of saints led to the development of new unofficial Hallowtide customs. In 18th and 19th century in rural Lancaster, Catholic families gathered on hills on the night of All Hallows Eve. One held a bunch of burning straw on a pitchfork, while the rest knelt around him, praying for the souls of relatives and friends until the flames went out. Now, this is not uncommon as far as lighting candles for the dead or for the souls or just prayers.
Yeah.
I've done that lots as far as lighting candles just in remembrance and in prayer.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with that in of itself.
It didn't hurt a thing as long as I didn't burn the house down. I mean,
Yeah.
I've gone through a bunch of those candles. Anyhow, this was known as Teenlay. There was a similar custom in Hertfordshire. It's the shires that get me. Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire.
And the lighting
Hertfordshire.
of Tyndall fires in Derbyshire. Some suggested these Tyndalls were originally lit to guide the poor souls back to earth.
Okay.
In Scotland and Ireland, an All Hallowtide custom, these were at ends with Reformed teaching and were not suppressed, as they were very important to the life cycle and rites of passage of local communities. In other words, in Scotland and Ireland, they pretty much left them alone because those people were going to do what they were going to do anyhow.
Right. So,
Yeah. And on All Hallows Eve in France, some Christian families prayed by the graves of loved ones, setting down dishes of milk for them. In Italy, some families left out a meal for the ghosts of relatives before leaving for church services. In Spain, they continue to bake special pastries called bones of the holy and set them on graves. And see, we can see that and overlapping of those customs with Dia de los Muertos.
absolutely, we can see that.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool on that, but it gives you a basis as far as how the church was originally involved in these things. Mm-hmm. And then they weren't.
Yeah.
Now, Samhain, and all this is coming from Wikipedia, by the way, right now, that was marking the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, or the darker half of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real occult, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this was usually held on November the 1st, with celebrations beginning on the evening of the 31st, because the Celtic day began and ended at sunset.
Okay.
Well, that's what we do.
Right.
And this is about halfway between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice. It is one of the 4 quarter days associated with Gaelic seasonal festivals. And historically, these have been widely observed throughout Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man. And there's a similar festival that was held in the Brittonic Celtic people.
The
Brittonic, as in Britain, and different things like that.
Oh, okay.
Now, Samhain is believed to have Celtic pagan origins, and some Neolithic passage tombs in Ireland are aligned with the sunrise at the time of Samhain, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool too.
It is first mentioned in the earliest Irish literature from the 9th century and is associated with many important events in Irish mythology. The early literature says Samhain was marked by great gatherings and feasts and was when the ancient burial mounds, which were seen as portals to the other world, were opened.
Okay.
So that's not a horrible thing.
No, that's not.
And it was also when the cattle were brought down from the summer pastures and when livestock were slaughtered, because these people had to make preparations for the winter.
Right, which, that's not different than any other people.
Absolutely. Also, during this time, special bonfires were lit, and these were deemed to have protective and cleansing powers. And, of course, there were rituals involving them.
Of course there were.
Let's go back even further to the Druids.
Yeah.
Because the Druids, that's
ancient
myth and mystery surround the Druids. And a Druid was a member of a high-ranking class in ancient Celtic cultures. Druids were religious leaders as well as legal authorities, adjudicators, lore keepers, medical professions, and political advisors. Druids left no written accounts. While they were reported to have been literate, they are believed to have been prevented by doctrine from recording their knowledge in written form, which is tragic.
That is tragic. There's so much knowledge
that's
lost.
Sure, that was sort of like the Native Americans that didn't want to be photographed because they believed that it captured their spirit.
Right. And maybe they were onto something.
They very well could have been onto something, because when you go back and you look at those things and other people look at those things, and even as far as when you put that in digital form now, that was one moment in time.
Yeah.
You cannot base an entire person on one picture. You cannot, base an entire lifetime on one moment.
Absolutely.
But people are doing it
every single day.
So that's kind of insane. Their beliefs and practices are attested in some detail by their contemporaries from other cultures, such as the Romans and the Greeks. Now, in Old Irish, we've got to figure out, what does Druid mean? Just like what did, heathen and pagan mean?
Right.
Which was like basically shrubbery.
Shrubbery.
Old Irish had a word that equaled sorcerer. Old Cornish and Middle Welsh had one that said it was equal to seer, as in like prophet type thing.
Yeah.
There was a hypothetical Proto-Celtic word which may be reconstructed as oak knower. That's how I feel, Kiska. Ring that bell, baby. Ring the bell.
Oh, poor baby.
And was that his head?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Anyhow,
I'm sorry.
the sense of oak knower
He did it to himself. I didn't
or
do it.
oak seer is supported by Pliny the Elder. So this is where these people get into this bullshit about them worshiping trees. That is not what that says.
No, not at all.
Right. And the Greco-Roman sources agreed that the Druids played an important part in pagan Celtic society. I'm getting escalated, as you can tell.
I can.
Druidic lore consisted of a large number of verses learned by heart, and Caesar remarked that it could take up to 20 years to complete the course of study. What was taught to Druid novices anywhere is conjecture. Of the Druids' oral literature, not one certifiably ancient verse is known to have survived, even in translation.
And that's sad.
It is. Because people have made shit up as they've gone along.
Well, what else were they supposed to do? Seriously.
Anyhow, I don't know. These other people could have talked to them and written it down. It says Greek and Roman writers frequently made reference to the Druids as practitioners of human sacrifice. Now, this is one of those huge things that is a matter of contention. According to Caesar, those who had been found guilty of theft or other criminal offenses were considered preferable to use as sacrificial victims, but when criminals were in short supply, innocents would be acceptable. A form of sacrifice recorded by Caesar was the burning alive of victims in a large wooden effigy, now known as the Wicker Man. Well, now listen. A differing account came from the 10th century, which stated that the sacrifices to the deities were made by drowning, hanging, and burning, known as the threefold death. Then we have archaeological evidence from Western Europe that has been widely used to support the view that Iron Age Celts practiced human sacrifice, such as mass graves found in ritual contexts dating from this period, which have been unearthed in Gaul. The excavator of these sites interpreted them as areas of human sacrifice in devotion to a war god, although this view was criticized by another archaeologist who believed that the corpses might have been those of honored warriors buried in the sanctuary rather than sacrifices. So, some historians are questioning whether the Greco-Roman writers were accurate in their claims. And J. Rives remarked that it was ambiguous whether the Druids ever performed such sacrifices, for the Romans and Greeks were known to project what they saw as barbarian traits onto foreign peoples, including not only the Druids, but Jews and Christians as well, therefore, thereby confirming their own cultural superiority in their minds. Nora Chadwick, an expert in medieval Welsh and Irish literature who believed the Druids to be great philosophers, has also supported the idea that they had not been involved in human sacrifice and that such accusations were imperialistic Roman propaganda. Fake news is not new.
Exactly.
And it says that Greek and Roman texts from the 3rd century BCE refer to barbarian philosophers, possibly in reference to the Gaulish Druids. So, we have it that there's been myths made up by people about all this stuff, and that as far as Halloween being evil, when its origins were Christian.
Yeah.
And you've got this going on now, and where did some of this slam against Halloween start?
Catholic Church.
Believe it or not, no. Back in the 80s, there was something going on that was called the Satanic Panic.
Oh, that. It went on from the 80s to the 90s.
But before that, and we'll get to that, I've got a really cool article about it's the Satanic Panic, and this was from America's War on Heavy Metal in the 80s. Oh, this was before the advisory, the warning labels, and all that stuff. And I was massive metalhead, you know, hardcore metalhead, and being young, and Tipper Gore, Burning Hell. All this stuff was bullshit.
Absolutely.
I mean, all of us knew that it was bullshit.
Yeah.
But one of the primary trolls of the 20th century sort of caused this shit. I don't know that he knew that his trolling would be as huge as it became. And that is Anton LaVey.
Yeah.
And Anton LaVey, just for shits and giggles, that's the only way I can figure it out, started the Church of Satan.
Yep.
And people will hear that and they will freak the fuck out.
No, that's literally what he did. He did it literally just for shits and giggles and to spite. Just pure spite.
Well, he was an intelligent person.
Yeah.
And if you take the time to sit and listen to what somebody else says, now, if your belief system is so weak that it disallows you to listen to another belief system or other people, you need to do a self-check as far as why you believe what you believe.
Absolutely.
Now,
I think everybody needs to, do some self-reflecting
absolutely.
As far as that.
So he started this in 1966. So it didn't. Now, with the heavy metal scene, of course, did you have people that used that? Yes. Absolutely. Do people use it today?
Yes. They use it for shock value.
Little Nas.
Oh, it's not just Little Nas.
I'm just saying that's the one now. Now, let's go on here, and there is a website to the Church of Satan, and I was, because I've been indoctrinated too, and I'm like, No, you sit there, and they had a Q&A page, which was very illuminating.
Yeah.
And question, do Satanists worship the devil? No, we don't. Satanists are atheists. We see the universe as being indifferent to us, and so all morals and values are subjective human constructions. Now, this is very intelligently written, and it is a matter of hedonism, narcissism, but at least they're honest and aware of it.
Yeah.
And it says, as far as, do they perform sacrifices? And he's like, no, we're atheists.
Yeah.
The only people who perform sacrifices are those who believe in supernatural beings who would consider a sacrifice to be some form of payment or for a request or form of worship. Since we do not believe in supernatural beings, there is no reason for a Satanist to make any sacrifice.
Exactly.
Okay, if you're not worshiping anything, so why would you?
Right.
And this was pretty funny. He said, what is theistic Satanism? And this individual said, there is no such thing. People who believe in some devilish supernatural being and worship him are devil worshippers, not Satanists. Anton LaVey was the first to define Satanism as a philosophy, and it is an atheistic perspective.
Yep.
Theistic Satanism is an oxymoronic term and thus absurd. I love that line. In Satanism, each individual is his or her own God. There is no room for any other God, and that includes Satan, Lucifer, Cthulhu, or whatever name one might select or take from history or fiction. And they did not write that in some kind of a rude way.
Right. It was very intellectual, very factual, and just straight to the point.
And it's like these people were more polite than a lot of the Christians.
Yes.
So that was interesting. And it's like, is Halloween important to Satanists? No, it's another research. I will read this, but another research, LaVey threw that in there just as a slam against people. It really was shits and giggles. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like L. Ron Hubbard and the Scientology.
It was nothing but pure snark.
Yeah. And people fell for it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, according to this, it says, we see this holiday as the night when the mundane folk try to reach down inside and touch the darkness, which for Satanists is a daily mode of existence. So that's bullshit. I mean, you can tell that. Particularly in the United States, Halloween is a time for celebrating monster films, wearing costumes of a macabre nature, and evoking the thrill of fun fear. Children of all ages can indulge their fantasies by donning costumes that allow for intense role-playing and the release of their demonic cores, the parts of their personalities often hidden from friends, co-workers, and families. In Carl Jung, that is the shadow self. Though there are traditions making this an occasion for recalling the dead, it has been popularized as a time to play with what historically were fears directed towards what were thought to be unquiet spirits of the departed. And the grand traditional question, trick or treat, has become a means for fulfilling an indulgence in sweets without the need to resort to the optional coercion.
Yeah. That's good.
Satanists embrace what this holiday has become and do not feel the need to be tied to ancient practices. This night we smile at the amateur explorers of their own inner darkness, for we know that they enjoy their brief dip into the pool of the shadow world. We encourage their tenebrous fantasies, the candied indulgence, and the wide-ranging evocation of our aesthetics, while tolerating some of the chintzy versions, even if it is but once a year. For the rest of the time, when those not of our meta-tribe shake their heads in wonder at us, we can point out that they may find some understanding by examining their own All Hallow Eve's doings, but we generally find it simpler to just say, think of the Addams Family, and you'll begin to see what we're about.
Yeah.
Now, I do take issue with that last one because the Addams Family were not hedonistic.
No.
They shared lots of things.
Yes.
And they were very much open to other people experiencing their family.
They were very much polite.
They were very kind and loving.
The only difference between them and normal people was the fact that they enjoyed the macabre.
Right. And the one that Kid mentioned at first, this came from Media Matters, which is not a site that I use that often, but this was pertinent. This was written by Oliver Willis and Ben Dimiero, whatever. Anyhow, and it's not a long article, but it provided the information which I needed, which was a few days before Halloween in 2009, Pat Robertson labeled Halloween a celebration of the devil and a celebration of demonic forces, and Robertson dismissed people that think Halloween as harmless and compared it to dabbling with demons and using Ouija boards or levitation. Now, actually, some of this stuff started even before then, because this was a continuation of the Satanic panic, and it continues to go on, and the stupid seems to never end.
No, it never ends. You can't control stupid, and stupid is very, very dangerous.
And that is, I found a couple of videos on YouTube that I'm going to provide the links in the description box, because it honestly talks about dealing with stupid people. And it's not, it just is. And it recognizes it for what it is, and ways that you can combat it. And how that if you try to provide information to someone, if it goes against their belief system, and sometimes these people will become violent. And so within that, that's just like, we'll call ourselves believers. We frequently do not refer to ourselves as Christians, because that has become a very loathed term, and it has worked hard to be that. What some people do has nothing to do with Christ.
Absolutely.
Because if you go back and look at what he said and how he lived, which is how we're supposed to live, Gandhi, he said, I like your Christ. He said, I don't like your Christians because they're so unlike your Christ.
Yep.
And so with these people, when you try to provide them any kind of education or something, they're going to get angry. Christ did say, he said, don't cast your pearls before swine, because they will trample them in the dirt. Then they will turn and rip you to pieces.
Yep. That is very true.
So those are the actual origins of Halloween.
Yep.
And it's very simple.
Very simple.
If you want to celebrate it, go ahead, carve a pumpkin, have fun.
Combat the people who are trying to name it Jesus Ween.
Well, let them let them make their own holiday. But as far as slamming
their own holidays,
somebody else because they want to celebrate, or even if they don't want to celebrate, I don't understand why people cannot just leave other people alone. Respect them as human beings. If they ask, provide them a feasible, logical explanation for your views, for your beliefs. That's simple. And I will tell you this, with this recent, and people are panicking about some of the commercials. I don't give a shit about the commercials. I don't watch TV. But I do watch, commentators, and everybody's been all a flitter about some of this stuff. And I will tell you the scenes, and this was from the Twix commercials, this bullshit of associating everybody that's goth with witchcraft, Satanism, the occult, that came out of China and stuff when they were making a lot of the goth clothing. There are goths of all belief systems, no belief systems.
Yeah.
So this is starting another myth.
Actually, I will disagree with you on that.
Okay.
Because originally it was actually small brand owners who are here in the States making like alternative clothing, such as Killstar used to be considered a small company, but they are now a luxury brand. They are the primary ones who produce the satanic goth attire.
See, there again, they should have left any kind of religion out of it. Any. Because what they did, now everybody associates every goth with some kind of an occult something.
Now, what did Twix do? What?
They had as far as, and I don't believe in putting political agendas of any kind in a food product.
Oh, yeah.
You either have a food product that is tasty or it's not. And if you're trying to sell an ideology, that probably to me means that your food sucks and I need to buy something else.
I don't know. I like Twix.
Well, yeah, but I don't. All these people that are jumping on these trains, this side, the other side, bullshit. The truth is always somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be anything like this. This is polarizing. It is divisional.
I was trying to get that out of my face, but...
It didn't. It's too late at night to do that. But anyhow, this is divide and conquer. This is a psyops tactic. And
Absolutely
it's damned effective.
It's yeah.
But it's like, anyhow, don't do these things. And it's othering. You're not one of us.
Absolutely.
And it's like, and I very well may use one of my favorite coffee mugs, even though it's not spoopy, that says, I just want to drink coffee and be left alone.
Yeah.
You know?
Do mug shots, by the way.
Yeah, I need to do new, because I got new mugs. But it's like, I will respect other people. I appreciate it when I get that respect back. And that's a reason, as far as the people that take the time to listen to us and to share in these little podcast video thingies.
Yeah.
We care what you think.
Absolutely we do. We all
That's
care.
why we make that offer each and every time to share with us.
Yeah, we're not literally just saying that to make it like, oh, come to us, blah, 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 blah.
No.
Like some superficial thing. We honestly do mean it.
Yeah. Because we know where we've been. We know what it's like to be judged.
We've not had an easy life.
No, we're out there on the fringe of society in multiple ways still.
Yeah.
And apparently that's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
And it was in one of the videos, it was talking about when people cluster, that the individuality, of course, that reduces, but that also reduces the individual's ability to think independently.
Yeah.
To not get caught up in that group think.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, I don't have a problem being the outsider.
I don't mind being an outsider either.
Designed to do it. So anyhow, if you want to fix you a pumpkin, you fix you a pumpkin. If you don't want to fix a pumpkin, don't fix a pumpkin.
Someone send cat meds.
Yeah, we've got to give the kitty Benadryl. He needs it severely. We did check with a vet. So, but if you've had experiences with paranormal, supernatural encounters with UFOs, aliens, cryptids, being an outsider in your community, if you've got local,
Congested
regional,
cats.
family, myths, legends.
Do y'all hear this in the back?
Yeah, God love him. He's so stuffy. He's just so stuffy.
Let's just let them hear it for a minute.
They don't want to hear it. It's disgusting. God love it. Anyhow.
That's so sad.
He needs kitty neosynephrine, and we can't do that.
We're going to have to do like a steam treatment on him.
That's what they did say, that steam was good. But now how you going to steam a cat?
Cone of shame. Face steamer.
I guess you could do that. Anyhow. Email address, cupofcoffeewithscream@gmail.com. And you are loved and you are respected. And that was one of the things about the phrase namaste. And people's like, oh, you can't say that, that's New Age. No, namaste is this amazing term which means the spark of God in me recognizes and acknowledges the spark of God in you.
Mm-hmm. Which is such a lovely thing.
It is an amazing, it's a blessing. It is, yeah. And these other people that they have no clue, they're talking out of their ass.
Absolutely.
And they don't have enough
people
sense. They don't have enough sense to be embarrassed.
No.
Anyhow.
You can't argue with stupid. They think they're right.
Yeah. You cannot argue with stupid. Watch those videos. I think that they could be very helpful. So anyhow, you are loved, you are respected, and we'll see you on the next cup. It will be more mirthful, I promise.
I mean, this one that wasn't that bad.
It was needed.
Yeah.
It was needed, especially when you came through and they're trying to call it Jesus Ween. What?
Yep.
That's just stupid.
Yep. Instead of Hollyween. Why Hollyween sounds better.
Honey, explain this to me. This is why, as far as the Hebrew roots, there were already days of celebration, days of remembrance. So, and they decided to throw those out, and then they're appropriating, I hate to use that, other people's holidays.
No, but that's what they're doing.
Because it wasn't, the ones that God gave them weren't good enough. That's horrifying. Mm-hmm. And how many times have we come across people that that we're believers in Christ and we do Passover and Shabbat and different things like that, tell us we're wrong.
But the funny thing is, those are the Karens that actually complain about Halloween being too scary.
Oh my God. Everybody just leave everybody alone. It's like kindergartners. Nobody touch anybody. Keep an arm's length away.
Yep.
Don't be hitting nobody. Don't be spitting on nobody. Nobody be biting somebody's on the face.
No head button.
Oh! What a world we live in. What a world. God help us all, truly.
Yeah.
So we will see you on the next cup. Bye!
Subscribe. Oh! Jesus Ween. Shit.